Stories teach us truths about the world. This is always true because, at the other end from the observer of the story is another human being who considered it meaningful to create that story. The connection that a story has with reality won't always be what the author intends, and this can happen for two main reasons. Either the artist isn't skilled enough to convey their view of the world through their story, or the author's view of the world might be inaccurate. But in either case, or in any other case, every single story that exists will reveal some truth of the world. Because even if the author is unreliable, the story that they create will reveal the truth about them. What do they see that isn't really there? What do they wish was true about life but isn't actually true? Or what are they trying to tell us that they just don't know how to say? And when we observe a story, maybe by reading a book, watching a movie, playing a video game, occasionally we'll notice bits and pieces that we think are especially true. Maybe you'll see a heroic character who lives a good life because the people he helps in turn want to help him. Or maybe you see a pragmatic character make moves in the shadows to defeat corruption. If you resonate with either, I'm sure that between the two, one is more compelling to you. Maybe the pragmatic character is more realistic for knowing that the peace cannot be protected with ideals alone, and that being under the public eye restricts your ability to make powerful moves. Or maybe the heroic character is more realistic for knowing that evil cannot thrive where it can't take root, and that people who are emboldened with the courage to do what's right won't allow evil into their hearts to propagate in the first place. The themes that we resonate with are chosen by, very specifically, our perceptions of our experiences. And that's an important clarification because two people can experience the same thing and view it in two different ways. For example, in a heated argument between two boys in high school talking about something very personal, one punches the other. One way you could see it is as a way to say, "Shut up, I don't want to hear it from you." And another way you could see it is as a way to say, "Yeah, this matters, so listen to me," instead of mouthing off. If, for example, the two boys are not close and don't respect each other, then it'll likely be perceived as the former. But if there is that respect, and they are friends, and they are both bold people, then it may be perceived as the latter. Whether you are a bold person or a timid person, a cautious person, a caring person, or any combination of countless characteristics, there's a reason that you are the way that you are now. But you're not done growing. Whether you're 18 or 85, growing and learning new things, especially about ourselves, is something that never gets old. Yet I find that for many people, the most impactful and most fondly remembered stories are those that we experienced when we were young. It's kind of implicitly accepted that nostalgia is more powerful than immersion. Immersion being the whole experience of a new story. Trying to understand characters like they're your friends, trying to understand a place like you live in it, trying to understand a struggle like you're the one going through it. Meanwhile, nostalgia is the immersion of the past. I said earlier that for many people, stories that people experienced when they were young are impactful. This is true because those stories shaped who we are today. I also said that they were fondly remembered. But another thing I notice a lot of the time is that when people think back on their favorite stories, they struggle to really remember how they felt and what particular events and themes in the story stuck out to them and changed them as a person. This isn't everyone, but it really is a lot of people. I'd encourage you to ask people you know about their favorite stories as a kid and how they impacted their life. Some people can tell you just like that, but you'll also notice some people say things like, well, maybe it was because this character was cool and I wanted to be like him. Maybe it's because this character was alone, just like I was. Maybe it's because I happened to cry when Grovyle sacrificed himself to push Dusknoir back into the future. Something was in the story and it made me feel this way or related to me in that way. But I find that what we have difficulty with is understanding how something made our past self feel a certain way, or why it mattered to our past self that a relatable story existed, or why, say, sacrifice was a meaningful theme to us. And that lack of understanding is significant. It shows us that we've lost our understanding of who we are intrinsically. And it's not always clear how or why. Sometimes I've even tried replaying a game that I've played before to see if I can rediscover what made it stick out to me back then, only to conclude that it wasn't as good as I thought it was. But if I'm going to be 100% honest, I don't think that's true, and I heavily disagree with the idea that stories just seemed better back then because as a child you didn't have the same standards. I mean, think about it. Human beings have only been literate for so long, and yet every story that could exist has already been told in some fashion. Rocketing beyond the atmosphere is no different from sailing the endless ocean on a hunk of wood, and it's not personal novelty that matters most either. Otherwise, the pull towards things that we are nostalgic about wouldn't be felt in the first place. And it's not just because you outgrew it either, because if only that were true, then at minimum you'd be able to remember, understand, know, and convey exactly what was significant about that childhood story while also recognizing the ways you've changed and the themes that resonate with you less now because you've changed in this way and changed in that way. Let's take it back to these two: nostalgia and immersion. As a reminder, nostalgia being our distant perception of the immersion we felt in the past. If I had to take an honest guess on why we've lost sight of ourselves to the extent that we have regarding this topic, I'd say it's because our ability to immerse ourselves has eroded. This can show in a lot of different ways. Maybe over time you've distanced yourself from longer, more narrative-heavy games in favor of mechanically interesting or satisfying games. Maybe your worries, or maybe even a significantly busier schedule results in you choosing bite-sized, digestible forms of entertainment like YouTube videos or short-form content like Reels. And I wouldn't really propose some kind of action plan to get you to start playing story-heavy or thematically interesting games, but consider this a reminder that any amount of critical thinking, introspection, trying to figure out what the themes of a story are is healthy for our brains and a change for the better. One step closer to understanding ourselves and feeling that same sense of presence that once upon a time we used to feel every single day. Thinking isn't something to be afraid of. It's not a commitment. You don't have to read a page just because you read a word. You don't have to beat an entire chapter of Xenoblade just because you turned the game on. And most of all, you don't have to feel anxious or ashamed at the times when you do immerse yourself in a story, even if you don't understand what you're experiencing right away. Understanding is something that you make yourself available to and explore when you feel curiosity. If you can do that, then you'll also find that certain times you reflect more deeply than usual and learn something about yourself that you didn't realize you didn't know. To conclude, the way we reach a hand out to our past selves is by reaching a hand out to our current self. The way I see it, once we prove to ourselves that we can be trusted with our own deepest secrets, we gain permission to live in our own skin. Thank you for watching this video up to this point. Leave a like, subscribe for more, and leave a comment about your favorite childhood game or stories. If you know anyone who might benefit from hearing the topics discussed in this video, then please share it with them, because that's what helps this channel grow the most. With that said, let's work hard and smart on our goals.